Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Williard, and you're watching the video for Human Impact for the unit Ecology. So there's a lot that goes into human impact, and we could really spend an entire unit on just human impact alone, but we don't really have time. So we're going to focus on 6 areas, break it down really short and concise for you so you just get an overall picture of ways that we influence and impact the environment. Everything we do can affect the environment that we live in, and a lot of people don't take nearly as much care of it as they should, and they don't even really care that they're that way. So let's look at ways we impact the environment. The first way we're going to look at is through human population growth. Just our population growing in and of itself is affecting the environment around us. How? Okay, over the past 200 years, population has grown exponentially. Remember, we already talked about exponential growth and what that is. It's rapid growth with no limit. So human population is still growing exponentially. We're still growing at a very rapid, very quick pace. And that has caused a problem. It brings us closer to our carrying capacity, which is the maximum number of humans that the earth can support. The more exponential we grow, the closer we're going to get to that carrying capacity, and we are going to reach it one day. And this is limited due to the amount of available resources. So by increasing our population, we're using up our resources faster than they're being produced, especially our natural resources. So more humans, less things. And you also know, as human population growth, we're just taking over cities and areas and clearing land to make houses, which we'll talk about even more when we get into deforestation. And none of those are good things. So we'll look at a graph real quick. This is just showing an estimate of human population growth over several years. So I mean, it started out kind of steady, and then it started to get exponential. So there was a lag time, just like always, but this huge growth, and this is, estimated for where we're going up to 9 billion people. So you notice it got really exponential right here in this time period, the Industrial Revolution and things like that. Better jobs, better technology, so people were living longer, access to better medication, which all sounds good in theory, but it's impacting the environment, the fact that we're having so many people here on Earth. So in 2050, it's estimated that we might have about 9 billion people. What else? Pollution. Okay. Pollution is the release of harmful substances or energy into the air, soil, or water. So pollution isn't just about littering and putting trash on the ground. Pollution can happen in the air, and it can also happen in water. There are certain areas of the world that are so heavily polluted from things that we put in the ocean that are washing up on shores. For example, out in Midway, which is an island in the Pacific, there's a bird called albatrosses. And there's so much pollution there that's what they're eating. They don't have the brain power to understand that they're eating plastic and bottle caps and batteries and whatever have you. And they're dying because of it. So pollution is kind of a wide range of things, or the air, from cars. So it's going to lead to an unstable ecosystem. If the water or the air or the soil, remember going back to those food chains, autotrophs are the basis of the ecosystem. So if we're polluting those things, it's going to cause the rest of the ecosystem to get unbalanced. Pollution can harm plants and animals. Doesn't matter if it's the air, soil, or water. So if you're polluting water, you can kill fish and other animals that live there. You're polluting the land, that can affect plants. It's all full circle. It may not seem like littering is that big of a deal, but it is, and it can harm plants and it can harm animals. Some sources of pollution are overcrowded landfills. The amount of trash that we are producing is ridiculous, and landfills are becoming even more overcrowded. Nuclear power plants, of course, transportation, polluting the air as we're driving in our cars and our buses, airplanes, everything. So what else do we do as humans that can possibly harm the environment? We've still got 4 more things to talk about. One is global warming, which you've probably heard about before, and there's a little bit of discrepancy and misunderstanding with what exactly global warming is, so let's straighten that out. This is caused by an increase in CO2, or carbon dioxide, in the atmosphere. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. It traps heat, which we need on Earth, because without that, all of the sun's rays would just reflect right back into space, and Earth would be really cold. So it's a greenhouse gas, it traps heat. So the more carbon dioxide there is in the atmosphere, the hotter Earth gets. And because we're releasing carbon dioxide in excess in our cars and all the factories and things that we're doing, it's increasing the temperature of Earth average per year. And just by increasing that a degree or two, it can make a really big difference. So it's causing ice caps to melt and sea levels to rise. It's also predicted to expect to cause more extreme weather. Don't know if you've been paying attention, but there's been a lot more crazy earthquakes and tsunamis and hurricanes and just really weird weather patterns that are not natural to certain areas. Certain areas that normally get a lot of rain are experiencing drought. Other areas that usually get droughts are experiencing lots of rain. So global warming is not just about increasing the Earth's temperature. It's increasing the Earth's temperature and what that is actually going to do to the Earth. We have invasive species. So sometimes we introduce a new species into environment. We're not really thinking anything about it, or maybe intentionally we had good plans, but what can happen is those species become invasive. They have negative effects. They almost kind of take over the new environment that they've been placed in. Sometimes this invasive species, since it's new to the area, it has no natural predators. The predators don't really know what that is. They don't know to go towards that. So they can reproduce a lot really quickly and take over. Okay, so they're going to be competing with native species for resources. And a well-known native species in North Carolina is kudzu. So it's like a vine that grows on plants and almost kind of smothers them and does not allow for them to do photosynthesis. So that's an example of an invasive species here in North Carolina. Don't know if you've ever seen it, but it's like the vines, they grow over everything, other trees, telephone poles, all kinds of things. Then we have deforestation. So deforestation is the removal of trees. We cut down trees all the time here to make houses for people. We're doing it in the rainforest. We're cutting down trees to do all kinds of things. Make buildings, make paper. Those are just a couple of reasons why we do deforestation. You know, we're making more and more developments, more and more neighborhoods. We're cutting down those trees. So it destroys habitats and reduces biodiversity. And because you're destroying habitats, I don't know if you've also realized this, but there's a lot more roadkill on the roads. Raccoons, possums, even deer are showing up more and more in roads and residential areas because we're destroying their natural habitats and they're forced to find somewhere else to go. It also removes oxygen from the atmosphere because it's photosynthesis. Trees release oxygen as a byproduct and therefore puts more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Plants take in carbon dioxide. They release oxygen. So if you're cutting down a lot of trees, you're depleting the oxygen. You're also increasing CO2, which goes back to global warming. So a lot of these things are interrelated and they're all making a difference in our environment. Burning fossil fuels. So that also kind of ties in with global warming, but there's other things that are released in fossil fuels like sulfur and nitrogen, which can lead to acid rain, which is rain that's very acidic, has a very low pH, and it can damage animals. It can damage plants, all of those different things. Okay? So it can change the pH in the water and affect aquatic ecosystems and kill those species that live there. We have acid rain in the mountains of North Carolina that's damaging trees and changing that pH in the water. Animals are very, very specific. They need to have balance. And if things are thrown out of whack, it can just go downhill from there. So burning fossil fuels doesn't just have to deal with global warming, it also has to deal with acid rain. And that's it. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you learned something new. Go out, do something to help your environment. We only live on one earth, and there's only so much we're given, and we need to take care of it. One way you can do this is ask myself or Ms. Meany about joining the environmental club this semester as we work on recycling and other service learning projects to give back to our environment and our community.